Thanks again for hopping on, Kathleen, to another episode of Untapped Stories. So I know we were talking a bit pre-show. First question we always love to ask is a bit about you before you became a champion and famous. So taking yourself back to the early days of your own athletic story. What was playing sports like for you growing up, and how did that shape, who you became today?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely a hyperactive kid. So my parents put me in like every sport under the sun. I obviously was super drawn to swimming pretty much right away. I feel like I had like that natural, like sort of just love for the water, just wanted to like jump off the diving board, do it all. But I'm so fortunate. I had like such amazing parents that like when I found a talent in swimming, that they were like, well, that doesn't mean you can go 5 days a week when you're 8 years old. Like you should be like, doing your horseback riding lessons. You should be doing basketball. You should be doing soccer. So I had like really awesome parents who let me try like everything, and I did everything so that when it was time to like choose my sport, I felt like, well, I've done it all. And I definitely love swimming way more than everything else.
Actually, really quick on that. I know Matt has got a question to jump in with too. We've heard so much about that from so many guests, like the sports specialization. Was that like a sit down conversation you had with your parents? Like, hey guys, I love swimming, and they told you maybe XYZ why it's better to do five sports? Or did it just kind of naturally happen that like your friends also played other sports and then you did it because they did it too?
Definitely a little bit of a sit down, because I went to my first swim practice and came out and was like, I want to go every single day, mom and dad. And they're like, literally, you're 8. Like it doesn't matter like how good you are when you're 8. And at the time they used to say like, it matters how good you are when you're 13. Because for like me, that seems so far away. And then by the time I was 13, my parents were like, it doesn't matter how good you are at 13. It matters how good you are at 18. That's sort of how they framed it to me. Like, you always just want to be able to do other things, enjoy other things. And I think my mom, who was a swimmer, was really concerned with burning you out. And I had this like huge love for the sport, like immediately. And sometimes coaches and parents can latch onto that and make it like sort of just drain it completely out of you. So by the time that kid is a teenager, that they have like no love or drive left for the sport. And for me, I was just like, so excited, loved it, wanted to do it all the time. And my mom wanted to like flourish that rather than like drain it out of me, essentially.
That's so smart.
Yeah. You were talking about, your family and how they kind of helped guide you when you wanted to go into competitive swimming. But how did your family and friends help you and prepare you to cope with the pressure that comes with competitive swimming?
Yeah, my parents always said, like, we don't care how good of a swimmer you are, we care how good of a person you are. So I think that stuck with me for one. Like, nothing I did was like changed how they viewed me or loved me, or I didn't get any awards from them if I got an award. So I think I'm fortunate there, but also just having like a really good support system that could distract me from swimming, but also listen to me. Like, I met my poor parents and sister who even swim, have listened to like every swim practice at the dinner table my entire life, like of me recounting like everything, single thing I did. But they also were there to like distract me, to push me to go on vacation, take a break from swimming for a week. Like, it's not going to kill you to go on vacation in the summertime at the end and take 1 week off. And then just being able to do fun things with people and be able to turn that switch on and off as much as you can when you're in the pool and out of the pool, having that balance.
That's great. And with your parents, and were they able to, even when you were older, competing in world championships, Olympics, were they traveling to a lot of these places to come support you? And how was that, if so, having them there?
Yeah, I don't think my parents have ever missed a swim meet of mine, like no matter where it was. My mom like traveled to Kazan, Russia by herself. Back in 2015, it was my first world championships, and there was like no way she wanted to miss it. My dad couldn't come because he was a principal at the time. But either my mom and dad, or my mom and sister, or my mom, dad, and sister were like at every single meet, from the Olympics to Worlds to Pan Pacs to Nationals, NCAAs, all of it.
One thing that stuck out to me so far in the early conversation here, you mentioned burnout. And I think swimming, individual sport, a lot of those like tennis, golf, track and field, you really have to deal with burnout as a kid because you're not playing a team sport. You don't have like a basketball, soccer, buddies to bounce off during a game. Maybe it doesn't sound like you hit that, but people that you've swam with, maybe that were just as talented as you and they fell off at a certain point. What do you think you did differently that helped you avoid burnout? It sounds like you have a crazy passion for swimming, but I'm sure a lot of other kids do too when they're 13. So like, what else besides just sports specialization helped you avoid burnout and ultimately compete at the highest levels when you were older?
I think too, like in an individual sport, I didn't specialize within my sport very early on. So looking at my best events ended up being 100 back, 200 back, and the 200 IM. But I had coaches who really pushed me to train all of the strokes all the way through high school and in college. So let's say when my 100 back was like at a plateau for like a year, that's a long time to like have a best event that you feel like you're not doing well in. But my 200 IM is like, skyrocketing and doing amazing. So I think for me, like just always like knowing that I had another event, that if I'm not going to go a best time in my best event, like at least I have something else to go a best time in. I think some of that is like why I didn't have a burnout is I didn't specialize within my sport for a very, very long time. And I had coaches who really wanted you to train no matter if you were horrible at breaststroke, you're still going to do breaststroke in practice because you're 15 years old and that's just how it is. And I think that helped me tremendously. But also I just think that like just having that huge love of the sport, and I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease and when I was 13. So I had a lot of gratitude and appreciation. And I think that you can oftentimes get humbled as an elite athlete. And that was something that humbled me continuously through my career. And just being able to have sort of that to look back on, that I'm so appreciative of my sport and my talent and being able to do it gave me like a huge, immense like love for it longer.
That's really smart.
The one thing I had to do, you brought up having Crohn's, and I'm sure that affected your diet and nutrition leading up to Rio. You had tremendous success winning 2 medals. Were there specific adjustments you made to your diet and nutrition leading up to Rio to optimize your performance?
Yes and no. Usually, like for me, like I'm on some pretty like serious medication. So I take biologics for my Crohn's disease. So for me, it's all about the medication management. Like if my medication is not working, then I'm going to have a Crohn's flare, and that will lead me into having to compromise my diets. So really like staying on top of my medication and stress. Stress is a huge like trigger for most Crohn's patients. And I went from my freshman year of college, which was a huge adjustment for me, just in general, as it is for most athletes or kids going to college. And I had a lot of problems with my Crohn's disease that year, freshman year. And I went home and began training at home for the Olympics in the summer. And that sort of just like brought my stress down, like was near my doctors, allowed me to sort of just be in a better environment, which I think was more of what I needed more so than the diet side of things as well. And then also like in college, I have a compromised immune system and I'm living in a dorm. So I got like strep throat 4 times my freshman year, which just knocks you out of training. Like it's not a Crohn's flare. It's not horrible, but like those are just like 4 different times that were just pretty minor, but still knocks you out of training for a week. I'm with 103-degree fever, just like wandering to the like student center being like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. I haven't been sick away from home. So just being able to go home and manage that before the Olympics was what I think was the most helpful.
What about, and for young athletes out there who want to play in college, even play beyond, and the parents trying to help them get there? I mean, it sounds like you had that third level during college, which not many people have. A lot of people have academics, their sport. You also have to worry about the Olympics.
Yeah.
Like, how do you balance that when it's an 18, 19, 20-year-old? Because when you're 30, you understand things a lot differently. But when you're that young, what did you do to balance your life at that point and just honestly stay sane?
Yeah, balance. As I said, like, you know, I still was like, I went to the football games on Saturdays. I did all of that stuff. But then when it's time to be serious, I was like very much ready to put everything on the line and make those sacrifices, but still giving myself that opportunity to be that normal college kid or college athlete, because there is a huge difference between being a college athlete and being a college athlete training for the Olympics.
Definitely.
Because your season ends in March. And for me, like a lot of people use that time to sort of like wind down on their training in college. And I'm like, I like need to gear it up for the Olympics, you know? So I feel like during that time, just really making sure that I had a good support system at school of teammates who wanted the same thing as I did, because you can hold each other accountable. It's really hard to do something like that when everyone else wants to do something different than you. I mean, we had several Olympians on my college team and we had a lot training for the Olympics. Okay. So being able to have that group around you when that college season ended in March was huge for me. And that was one of the reasons I chose to go to Cal, was I knew that there would not just be great collegiate swimmers, but great international and Olympic level athletes as well.
That's so great to hear. And I think one of the things I want to touch on, you brought up how keeping your stress under wraps was really important for you to perform well. At Rio, after winning the silver in the 100-meter backstroke, was it a challenge, you know, keeping yourself emotionally composed, knowing that you still had to compete in the 4x100 medley relay? I know a lot of athletes, and you hear about these things having like an emotional crash after a big race or a letdown in the next performance. How were you able to keep yourself composed?
Yeah, I mean, that is like one of the hardest like parts about it. Like I remember winning my Olympic medal. I wasn't sort of slated to win an Olympic medal, so I think the joy and the excitement was even like way higher than I could have anticipated. My Olympic roommate also won her first Olympic medal that night, and we like didn't go to bed like at all. The first night we won, we like went and got ice cream in like the athlete village in the middle of the night because they have a 24-hour dining hall. Like we were so excited that like we couldn't even sleep. Like nothing would have put us to sleep in that moment. So being able to have that moment, but knowing like after that moment, like I need to like check back in and get back into like what I need to be able to do, because that relay is counting on me to win a gold medal at the end of the week. Luckily, I had four full days in between, so that allowed me to at least have that like one day where I really just got to enjoy the moment and embrace like this joy and excitement, celebrate with my family, get to see them, go to on the Today Show, do all of that. So I feel fortunate that I got that moment. And then once that moment was over, it was like check right back in to the next events. And I think just having good coaches, especially at your first Olympics, your first medal, you don't always like understand what the magnitude of that is, but having like a really good coach that's like, okay, this is awesome, let's celebrate it, and then let's go back and you're going to get in the water that afternoon and we're going to do whatever the workout is. So just having people around you again that are holding you accountable. And again, my Olympic roommate was on that relay as well, so knowing that she's going to have to get right back in it with me helped as well.
What about leading up to that, Kathleen? Like before you obviously won the medal when you really weren't slated to. What about that race in particular did you do to prepare and like really just build up confidence in yourself? I think a lot of athletes face that high pressure game, probably not as high pressure as the Olympics to be honest, but still like those kind of moments. What did you do beforehand to convince yourself that you can compete? And even if you're not like pre-ranked to number one, you still should go out there and give it your all and try to like, you know, shoot for honestly gold. Like what did you do?
Yeah. For sure. I think having like a huge belief in yourself, no matter what is going like in your world, is so important for me. I have always believed in myself, like even when things haven't gone my way, I have a very strong belief in myself. And then I also have people around me who didn't crush that belief. So if I'm telling my coach, like, I want to win an Olympic medal, he's not going to say like, I don't think you can do it, but he might tell me like, how do you think that you're going to get there? Like, let's talk through it. I'm a big goal setter. I'm a big routine person. So for me, like specifically at the Olympics, like I know every single thing I am doing, like to the minute before my race, like an hour and a half out, I'm going to be doing this, 40 minutes out, I'm going to be doing this, 37 minutes out, I'm doing this. So staying on that routine for me just like keeps your mind in it that yes, I'm at the Olympics, but this is the exact same routine that I do at every single meet the entire year. So when you have that routine, it sort of just like checks into that flight or fight mode where you're just like know exactly what you're supposed to be able to do. And then turning that like really nervousness into an excitement. Like I want to feel like I'm going to throw up because that means I care and I'm going to do awesome and I have this adrenaline. I don't want to like use saying like I feel like I'm going to throw up because I'm so nervous and scared about how I'm going to do. So I think a lot of it is a mindset shift for me.
Love that.
That's so interesting. And one of the things I actually watched your 4x100 medley relay. I know you started that race. What feelings and emotions? I know you said you're scheduled out until the minute before the race. When you're in the pool and you're about to get started, what's going through your mind and how are you staying composed? Because even just watching it, those races are so intense. How do you keep yourself composed?
Yeah, I mean, I am like an extremely high energy, high adrenaline person. So for me, I'm telling myself to relax. Like literally as I'm like sitting in, hands up on the block, like my cue word, as my coach says, is relax, relax, relax. And I tell myself that for the first 25 meters of my race so that I don't overswim it and overexert myself. Because in reality, like the first 25 meters, my adrenaline is going to like completely take me with no effort at all. So I don't need to try. So just telling myself that has been like my cue word pretty much since I was a kid. Not to like overwork it, go out too fast and die.
Relax.
It's pretty much what I do. And it just has worked for me all the way like up until like I've finished swimming. I've said it on every single race, just relax, relax, relax. Like you got this. And then like when I'm in that race, like I'm cheering myself on, like at the end, like I'm like, go Kathleen, like in my head. And people think that's like so funny, but I'm like, my arms feel like they are going to stop. Like I could stop swimming if I wanted to right now. Like that's how tired I feel. I feel like I've been hit by a bus. So I'm like in my head cheering myself on because that's always worked for me. Like you got to be your biggest hype woman.
That's so cool. I know you mentioned it before too, Kathleen, but you navigated Crohn's disease from an early age. I know you've talked publicly about that. And I'm sure you've shared tips like this, but for our audience, what is one thing you can share about having to overcome that adversity at such a young age that's helped you to keep going and push past obstacles when I think honestly a lot of people would just say like, hey, this hit me when I'm 13, I'm done swimming. Like what did you do to acknowledge it, move past it, and then become better for it?
Yeah, definitely a little bit of denial helps a little bit. At the beginning, it was like major denial, like I'm totally fine, like I'm good. And obviously that wasn't the case for me. I had to go on medication. I was very, very sick. I was like a failure to thrive like kid. I dropped like off the BMI charts because I'd lost so much weight. And this is why I'm like still training like 5 or 6 days a week. Once I got past like the denial of like I actually do have a chronic disease, like the denial kicked in for me of like, okay, I have a chronic disease, but I'm not going to let that change how my goals want to be. And oftentimes I looked at my path to the Olympics, and my parents and doctors and everyone said this to me, like, you don't have to change like you wanting to make the Olympic team. We might just have to change the path on how we get there. And that has just like really stuck with me, that it sort of takes different paths along the way, and every Olympian has a different path to make it there, as well as finding the right doctors for me who supported me, who helped me, who understood that not only was I 13 and wanted to be Kathleen who could like go to a sleepover, but I also wanted to be Kathleen who would go to the Olympics, and seeing me as not just like someone with Crohn's disease, but Kathleen with Crohn's disease with all these goals, and having an individualistic approach to my health journey as well.
That's awesome. A lot of young athletes deal with different obstacles, so to see how you overcame them and really reached the pinnacle and winning a gold medal is really incredible. We talk a lot about, with youth sports and parents, how do we overcome obstacles? How do we stay motivated? But we don't talk about what happens when you reach your goals after that. You know, one of the questions I had was, what was the feeling like winning the gold medal at the Rio Olympics? And then also, what kept you motivated in order to compete in the World Championships years after?
Yeah, I feel like, to be honest, going from Rio, it was pretty easy to stay motivated because it just hit me so quickly getting that medal, that I knew that there was like so much left for me to do. I was only swimming the 100 backstroke, and then the next year I'm swimming 3 different events at World Championships. So I knew that there was more events I wanted to add to my like international lineup. I think one of the biggest challenges was I broke the world record in the 100-meter backstroke in 2018. And like, if you're looking at like the biggest goal you can accomplish, like an Olympic medal is amazing, but usually it's not done in a world record. But being able to break a world record and say like, I am actually the fastest person in history ever in this event, it's pretty hard to be like, okay, now let's reshift and let's talk about what you want to do next. And I remember my coach is tough on me, but amazing. And I've had him for over 10 years. And he was like, okay, like this is amazing, and celebrate that moment. But he was like, but I want you to break the US Open or American record on Friday in the 200 IM. And that's at the same meet. So like, I've got like one day to switch it into that. And I think that I'm such a goal setter that he knew that that was what I needed. And I did. I broke the US Open record in that 200 IM. But being able to look at that race, and I remember sitting down and looking at that race video of my 100 backstroke after the world record and pointing out that I knew I messed up on a couple things and I still broke the world record. So being able to look at your event and be like, that is so amazing, but like, let me break it again and let me have that perfect race, because that was not a perfect race. I swam it outside. I almost ran into the lane rope swimming backstroke in California. So that for me is just like looking at it and how can I be better? Like if it's not in that 100 back, it's in a different event. And if it is in that 100 backstroke, then how can I do better? Where can I improve? Really taking that race apart. And it's so analytical that like people don't even realize this in swimming. Like I'm looking at how I can be 1/10 faster in the first 15 meters of the race. Like how can I flip my legs over? Like how can I turn my arm a little bit differently angled wise? Like that's at the point where I am in my career, and being able to look at that and being able to see where I can improve and want to be better, and just keeping those goals shifting with you. So really celebrating your goal, reevaluating it quickly, and then moving forward. I think you need to have a moment, you need to celebrate something you've done, but being able to look and then quickly move forward, because oftentimes, like I did in this world record, I had another event at that meet that I wanted to win at a national championship and I wanted to do well in. So being able to shift your focus quickly.
It sounds like for a lot of these like different stories that I'm hearing, a lot of the same themes keep coming back. You had really good parents who supported you, really good teammates. You mentioned this one coach a couple times, so he's been with you for 10 years. Could you, if it's a he or she, could you talk more about them? And I guess, was it just to give the story, was it a coach like for the Olympic team, or was it a private coach? Like, who's this person? And it sounds like they had an awesome influence on you. How did you work
Yeah.
with them over the years to really bring the best out of yourself?
Yeah, it's Coach David Marsh. He used to be the head coach at Auburn, and then he shifted into coaching pro swimmers. So he actually became coaching me when I was 14, and I joined a pro team where I got to swim like a little bit with like the essentially like 25, 30-year-olds when I was 14. Wow. And he coached me from 14 until 25. And sort of like my college coach was in there as well, but every summer after college, I would go home and train with him. He was also the Olympic coach, head Olympic coach in 2016. He's been on all of my staffs throughout my entire career at World Championships, Pan Pacific Championships. So I'm so fortunate to have him. But what makes him so amazing is not only is he just like a great coach, but he's so technique focused. He's out of the box, and he coaches every athlete differently for what they need. I'm someone who like didn't get a lot of good jobs because he felt like I didn't need them. But at the same time, there might be another girl next to me who needs that for her confidence, and that girl's going to get more good jobs from her set. So just me, as I got older, like seeing how much he coached every single athlete differently, I think is what makes him an incredible coach, because every athlete needs are differently, motivational needs are differently. You're going to need to know how to bring someone up. You're going to need to know how to bring an athlete down, that type of thing. And it's not a universal experience.
I know, Matt, you got a question. To be honest, though, Kathleen, this is what gets me so excited. And 5 years ago, when my wife and I built this business, it was that exact kind of story. I knew kids growing up that they worked with not even a private coach, maybe a college coach who was done coaching and just helped out. It always seems like people who reach the top, more or less, they have somebody in their life like you had, Coach David. How did you go about finding him when you were 13, 14, and like your parents? Because if you didn't have him, maybe the story goes different. Maybe you don't swim the 25-year-olds for Olympics and you get like that exposure. I think that exposure at a young age, when it's not forced and the kid wants to do it, that's so unique and so impactful for them. But like, what was that process like for you and your parents to actually say like, hey, Kathleen's a really good swimmer. We probably need a coach to get it to the next level. And then here's Coach David. What was that like?
So I asked my parents to move cities from Winston-Salem to Charlotte. So it was a conversation.
It's a big conversation.
I was sort of outgrowing my club team in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. They were amazing. I had a great coach, but I am 14 years old and like the best on the team. I'm traveling to meets by myself now because no one else is qualified. And there is a club team in Charlotte that I really wanted to join. And I had asked my parents, like, if this was possible. And they said, like, let's meet with the coaches there. And then we can talk about commuting because it's an hour and a half. And we didn't commute. We got an apartment because it was like way too much driving eventually. But I met with all of the coaches and I had like this little binder with me about the reasons why I wanted to join that club team. And I had like all the lists and they were like so impressed that they're like, you've got to meet with Coach David Marsh, who's the head of our like sort of Olympic pro team. And so I sat down with him at a coffee shop with my parents, and my parents spoke nothing the entire time. And I talked the entire time with my little notebook about like exactly what I wanted to do, what my goals were, how I wanted to get there, what I felt like this team would add for me. And I think he was so impressed that at 14, he was like, okay, you can come train with this pro team twice a week. And by the time I was 15, I was almost like on the pro team the whole time.
That's amazing.
I think that he looks at that as like one of the biggest moments because I have always led the charge and I've led the charge with my parents. And they say it's always easy to make a sacrifice when your kid wants it that much and pushes us to want to make that sacrifice. Like we're never ever having to ask Kathleen to make a sacrifice. Like we're telling her, like, you don't actually need to make that sacrifice. Like you can come to Thanksgiving. Like you don't have to swim like every Thanksgiving morning. So I think for me, like I have just had such an amazing experience with my coaching and my parents that I feel like a lot of high level athletes don't. And I wish that more parents could hear that, is that like, let your athlete lead the charge and rein them in. Like you don't need to push them. Like your job is to keep them age appropriate to them, keep them a kid, let them go to a football game, whatever it is, like, but let them lead the charge.
That's so cool.
That's great. It seems like your parents and your coaches were very supportive, and they seem to help you, handle stress well and the pressures of swimming. One of the things I wanted to touch base on too is a lot of young athletes have these goals. They want to be a professional swimmer. They want to be a professional basketball player, soccer player. It doesn't happen for everyone, but there are so many benefits to sports, beyond sports, that help you in your personal life, communication, relationships. How did swimming competitively, how has that helped you in your personal life? after, all the success you've had?
Almost every athlete would say this is like the time management is huge. Like you learn how to get things done at a higher rate because you have a crunch of time. So I feel like even in college, like learning how to do things where I'm going to be not only competing for my college team, but I'm traveling. Like my senior year, I went to several countries in the middle of the school year, like in college, and having like to adapt to that as well. So learning that people skills as well. I mean, I'm at the highest level, so I'm doing interviews, I'm doing all of that. But I think that makes it so easy when you transition out of the sport. Like, oh, you have a job interview. It's like, well, I have a day interview on NBC 1 minute after my race. So like, it can't be too hard. Or like being able to do public speaking or getting up there and being able to talk. Like I always try to like hype myself up and say that like nothing is harder than like having 1 minute race on the line at the Olympics where it's the difference of not only me winning a medal, but winning several $100,000 and I have like 1 minute to do it. And then I'm like, oh, I can get up and like talk about whatever it is up there. And then also goal setting. I've been goal setting since I was maybe 11 years old, and just being able to find someone who can like understand how to goal set smartly, and they use the SMART goals, but being able to like create a process to get to those goals and enjoy that process and celebrate it along the way. I mean, we talk about like not everyone is going to get to whatever that end goal is, but if you create this great long process goal where you have things along the way that you can celebrate, that even if you don't get all the way there, like at least you've had some good moments along the way. And I think sometimes people focus too much on the end state and not the journey.
Love that. I know we talked a lot about your career too, Kathleen, as a swimmer. Now that you're done swimming and you're building a business around coaching, speaking, like what's your vision for what you want to do moving forward? I don't think the journey is even close to being done. So over the next 10, 20, 30 years, like what do you see yourself doing and how do you see yourself impacting the next generation?
Like I said, I mean, I had an amazing coach who was so out of the box that was filming me, putting his iPhone into the water all the time. Like, cool. Pretty much like just doing things that were so unorthodox to the sport of swimming that I feel like still now athletes are not getting that level of sort of technique focus. And that's sort of what I want to be able to show kids, not only the technique and doing things differently, but also be able to be a mentor and goal set. Like I've talked so much about, like I didn't burn out. Like I loved swimming the same at 25 as I did at 8, which is so rare. And like, how did I get there? There's so many steps along the way that like helped me. But I just want to be able to inspire that next generation, to coach that next generation, to show them that it's not all about how hard you train, it's how smart you train. And that comes from different techniques, different types of sets, how to goal set, like all of the above. And that's sort of like where I'm drawn to, like now, is wanting to coach and be on that individual side of things. And I'm fortunate enough that I got all of that as an age group swimmer. And not many age group swimmers get that level of sort of one-on-one attention.
Anyone who works with you would be beyond lucky. So,
thank you.
Well, I know we kind of touched base on this with handling stress and the mental preparation leading up to big events, but is there anything in particular, any advice that you have for young athletes on how to handle pre-race jitters or anxieties?
I think visualizing that race or your game beforehand for weeks and months in advance, and like really trying to dial yourself into exactly what that's going to look like, to what you're going to wear, what your equipment looks like. So you're picturing all of it ahead of time. So when you're there, it's almost not like, oh my God, I'm there. You've already pictured exactly what it's going to look like to be there. I'm a big visualization person, like to the point where I could like walk through my whole race in my head and probably get within like a tenth of my time if you timed me. But I'm talking like not just like the game, but like what it looks like for swimming. It's like walking onto the pool deck or walking into a stadium or walking onto the court. Like picture everything around it so that when you get there, that it is not just like an, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed feeling. You're already prepared for it.
Love that. And I think what's one kind of like outside of the box tip? Sounds like you had a coach who was very outside of the box. What's one thing you would tell athletes? Is it like a cool song you had that was like a pre-race song to get you amped up, or like a special food that you had, anything that was like just unique to what you did that you feel like if you had a one-on-one session with the kid, that's probably one of the first things you would tell them?
Yeah, I have two things. Like I always said, like look good, swim good as a female. Like I always wanted to like, have the cute outfit on. I do my hair, I do my makeup because I wanted to be able to be as feminine as I wanted to be, but also be like sort of like kick everyone's ass in the pool as well. So I was like, I can be both. I didn't want to be able to be that athlete where you feel like you have to lose your femininity to be this like hardcore athlete. I wanted to be both. And then the second thing is like find something cross training that is super fun outside of the box. Like my coach on recovery days had us surfing a lot when I swam in San Diego. And I feel like that you feel like, oh, that was fun and that takes your mind off of, but one, it's a good workout. Two, it correlates to your sport. And three, there's not stress around like your performance in terms of in the pool. And I feel like for just having that midweek recovery day that was different than any other day was huge. It just is a completely like your brain's off. You get to have that moment. And then if you can't do something like that, be able to turn your brain off in the pool. Like have a workout where like the first 1,000 meters is brain off. Like you're not thinking about your technique. You're not thinking about your stroke. You're not having to think about anything. You just resetting and giving yourself that like mental break, because it's oftentimes people don't realize how much like drain puts on you having to think about like every single stroke you take, trying to fix something, just being able to take that brain off moment.
I love that second piece. I know you were a 10 times better athlete than Matt and I, but even playing college sports, like if we'd have a rough game, a long stretch of practice, one of the things a lot of our teammates would do would just be go to the rec and play pickup, like with a bunch of student athletes, like because you just have fun. You kind of remember like why you love the sport. So it sounds like you guys did something similar. But surfing is way cooler than playing in the rec gym. So.
But it's all about finding that something that is a little bit different. That is that love, bring it back to why you love what you're doing. Like for swimming, for most of us, it's like we love the water. So going and surfing is like bringing us right back to like the baseline is like we love being in the water.
Yeah. Honestly, I think there's so many good tips and thoughts that you've shared. I really hope everyone listens to the full episode once it drops, because this is going to be, I think, a game changer for youth athletes. So, unless, Matt, do you have any other questions? I think I got all the.
No, that was pretty much it. I just wanted to thank you for coming on, and this was great. We really want to focus too. There's so much going into training, but the mindset of athletes and teaching young athletes how to stay composed, and I think you're such a great example of that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I hope to share all of like my favorite tips and tricks, as I feel so fortunate to be able to have been taught them myself, and hope I can teach so many other athletes them as well.